to Ask the Expert, a web series designed to provide you with practical information on business and finance. I'm your host, Nicole Pride. So within the D-Free infrastructure, we have so many people with expertise, experience, and perspectives who can help you move your business forward or advance your career goals. Today's expert can help you grow your business or strengthen your personal brand. Joining us today is our very own Martin Soaries. Martin is the digital marketing coordinator for Corporate Community Connections Incorporated, which is the parent organization for the D-Free Foundation. In his role, he curates digital assets, including videos and podcasts. He has nearly a decade of experience in sports media, as well as significant portfolio work in digital media, radio, and journalism. But you should know, Martin is the founder of Basketball Society, which is an independent multimedia and lifestyle brand. What started out as simply a pursuit of his passion turned into one of the major voices of influence for basketball enthusiasts. So more than 2,000 of his followers on YouTube, and get this, more than 61,000 of his followers on Instagram tune in to hear Martin's critiques and insights about the game. Also, Martin is a skills development trainer. He is carving out his own space in the area of breadth training for basketball players. Martin has trained some of the top players in New Jersey under his business, Holistic Hooper. So, if you are interested in becoming an influencer for your business category or establish yourself as an authority on a topic, then listen up. Martin will share wise advice as he talks about his own experiences. So welcome, Martin.
Thank you, Nicole. Thanks for having me. I don't think I've ever had such a rich introduction ever.
Well, it's true. I'm fascinated how you were able to take what was just purely an interest of yours and then grow it into something that is really developing a strong following. So can you just take us to the beginning? Where and when did you find your love for basketball?
Yeah, so I've been playing all my life ever since I was 3 years old. It was obvious early that I loved playing the game, and I loved watching the game. I caught on to Michael Jordan early, who was my first favorite player, and kind of rode him through the 90s. And basketball just stuck with me. And then as I started playing, it turned out I was okay at it, so I kept playing. And the beginning of this work started after my playing career, after college, and trying to decide what I really wanted to do going forward with my career. But one thing was clear to me, that basketball had to be part of it. No matter what that looked like, no matter what the process was, no matter what else I did on the side or in conjunction with it, I needed to keep this basketball spirit going and somehow turn it into a career. So this was around 2013 when digital media and things were evolving, and I started with a blog. So the beginning was just starting a blog. I was writing up NBA playoff predictions, and it kind of just went from there. I was a decent writer. I had some writing skills, and so I started with writing, and it started from there, and then it kind of expanded and built out into a kind of a more wholesome basketball platform.
So where did you go to school, and what position did you play?
So I played at South Brunswick High School, Central Jersey, 2007 state champs, Central Jersey Group 4. Always have to rep that. There's only a few successful teams in South Brunswick basketball history, so it's pretty rare, but people remember because there's not that many. So, but I went to Eastern University in Pennsylvania, small Christian Division III school. Played there for 4 years. I scored 1,000 points in high school, scored 1,000 points in college. So one thing about me is I could score. But yeah, I had a pretty good career, high school and college. And so as I continued to evolve and develop my game and also my love for the game, After I was quote unquote finished playing, I knew I wasn't finished with basketball.
Hmm. And so you said you started off by blogging. And so you were just whatever topic you wanted to talk about, you just wrote about it. What was your inspiration?
Yeah, I was always an NBA fan. And around that time, I remember specifically one day, as many people do, still often do, watch Stephen A. Smith on ESPN First Take. And at that point, I was a real junkie of the show. And one day it hit me. I was sitting on my couch listening to Stephen A. yell at me about something basketball related. And I said, you know what? It wasn't so much I want to be the next Stephen A. Smith or even I want to be on TV. It was just like he's getting paid to yell at me about basketball. And there's something to this. So I was very new in the whole thinking about media or journalism or broadcasting and all these terms. I went to school for communication studies where I learned a little bit, but it wasn't really a direct gateway into sports journalism or sports media. But I
Right.
did develop some skills. So it really started with that, listening to Stephen A. Smith yell at me through the TV. And I said, you know what? I could probably do something like this, and someone could probably pay me to yell at somebody about basketball. So it started with blogging because I was a decent writer and I was a huge NBA fan. I was the one always debating LeBron versus Kobe and these huge basketball debates with my friends where we'd be ready to fight each other. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna fight y'all. I'll just put this on the internet, get my opinions out there, and kind of see where it goes. So it started out with just kind of NBA writing and predictions.
And so did you see much of a following with your blogs in the beginning?
Oh no. No, I mean it
Hmm.
was at first I didn't know who I was writing to. I didn't know who was
Right.
reading my stuff other than my mother, who's a basketball fan and a Martin Soaries fan, of course. So yeah, no, I mean you could see the page views on the blog. This was on Blogger at the time, and you could see page views on the blog and on certain articles and stuff. So some posts I would see maybe a couple hundred views or something like that. So that just even in itself would kind of motivate me to say, okay, people are looking at this. I knew someone was looking at it. So yeah, it really wasn't much of a following or traffic or any of that like that at all. It was just really building from scratch from the ground up and building out, letting people know that, I'm out here talking basketball.
Yeah, and I think it's important to share that because I think people have the idea I have an interest and I'll say something about it and the whole world will start to follow. And there's more to it than that, right? There's consistency, longevity, and then there's some technical things behind the scenes that you do to try to elevate your content. And so you started out, and in the beginning, not so much of a following. So how did you go from your blogging to where you are now? What did that look like for you?
Well, the key was definitely people along the way. I would reach out to people and people would come to me when they would see the kind of stuff I was doing and they would kind of posit to me that they wanted to do something similar. So I've kind of had people over the years, like a few years in when I started, again, I was reaching out to some people through Twitter, social media, looking for other writers, other NBA basketball enthusiasts and seeing if they wanted to kind of do similar stuff on my platform as I was doing. So it really came from expanding internal personnel, people who were contributing to the platform over the years, and then also connections with people outside of the platform, other basketball brands, other trainers, other coaches, other writers, other members of the media. And that's really what the nature of growing social media and a brand really is making connections with other people specifically on social media. I mean, that's how you grow, by posting content and doing those things, but also by following people, by engaging with people, leaving comments on their stuff, replying to their stuff, finding common ground, finding other people who are interested in the things that you are, and then showing what you have to offer and then celebrating them for what they have to offer. So generally big picture wise, that was really the key is the people who contributed internally, starting with me, of course, but there were others who contributed who helped build up the Instagram, who helped to evolve the website and the articles and things like that. So we built up a little bit internally, and then externally, I just kept. I mean, basketball is so much a part of me that it's natural for me to go out and connect with other people in the space and kind of introduce them to things I'm doing. So it was a big collaboration piece, both internally and externally.
Yeah, I think there's a few things you said that are key. Like one, just the your authentic love for the sport, right? So whatever it is that you're writing about, you really have to care about it. You can't fabricate that, right? And so otherwise, it becomes a really a heavy lift, and people can see right through it. So one of the
Yeah.
things about you about you. I looked at some of your interviews. Like you are really passionate, and particularly about the holistic aspect. So I saw an interview. It tickled me so much. This was a while ago. It was called Tapping into the Zone, and it was with the mental performance coach. Laura Mitchell Wild. And I mean, I thought you were going to jump out of your seat. Out of your seat. I loved it. You were just so into it. And I think that makes people want to follow. People connect with the energy that you give off and the excitement about the topic. So, for anyone who is trying to establish a personal brand or position your business as the authority on a specific category, topic, issue, product, whatever it may be, the passion just has to be there. People see right through it.
100%, 100%. Laura Mitchell Wild is a special, unique person out here in this galaxy. She's become one of my mentors. She gives me so much crazy advice and tips and things that I utilize in my mindfulness practice and as I teach the players that I work with. She's on another level. She's on another level. She's got a book called The Cosmic Athlete. She talks about cosmic and energy and unicorns and frequencies and all that. She's just on another level. But since I got into my meditation and mindfulness practice, I can't help but subscribe to things like that. So she's been a great mentor, and it was cool to talk to her. And I love how you brought up the passion for this stuff, because the only reason I am in the mental performance, mental health, meditation, mindfulness, holistic wellness space is because of basketball. It's
Mm,
my connection to basketball. Basketball actually brought me to meditation. Basketball brought me to mindfulness. And it's really the only reason why I feel comfortable in those spaces, because right away I started talking to people like Laura, people like George Mumford, people who are in the space as mental performance coaches and things that are kind of becoming a little more popular now with mental health conversations ramping up and whatnot. But these are people who have been doing the work and who do the work with basketball players. George Mumford taught Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, my two favorite basketball players ever, how to meditate. So for me to be able to interview him and get advice from him and call him a mentor is something that I never would have expected, but it makes a lot of sense and I'm comfortable in it, because while I'm also starting to focus on my personal growth and wellness as we do when we get older, I've also taken more seriously my development in how I'm able to train, training young basketball players. We can work on dribbling and shooting and passing and cutting and defending and running and footwork and all these things that mechanically have to do with basketball. But if we're not breathing, if we're not comfortable with ourselves, if we're not mindful about why we're actually doing this, if we're not connected to a real purpose and passion, if this is not a passion for you, then what are we doing? Then what do we do? What are we doing spending time doing this? Right. So
mhm,
being connected to your passion can take away intimidation, fear. I mean, those things will be there, but you'll be way more comfortable, way more confident. Even if you are intimidated or fearful, at least you're still connected to what your passion is. And in my experience, that's made me feel a lot more comfortable going into different spaces that may seem to not have anything to do with basketball.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. For a lay person like me, I would not have connected the two. Holistic health, mental well-being, breath work with the sport of basketball. And this natural trajectory that you're on led you to this unique category. And because you've been at it for so long, is really going to position you to be one of the go-to people in that space. And which is pretty cool because as um, I think as people are more open to mental health and well-being, just because of how the state of the world is, you're really positioning yourself well. And I think that is helpful for other people. One, longevity, just to be an influencer, just stick at it. The longer you're in it, the more your name is out there, the more connections you make, as you mentioned, and opportunities begin to open. Can you just go back a little bit and talk a little bit more about what that internal infrastructure looked like? So, when you talked about having other contributors, were you paying them freelancers or were they just co-collaborations?
Yeah, that was the challenging part at first. I mean, because everyone was freelance. No one was paying me to do stuff, so I didn't have anything to offer people initially to say, hey, salary on board. It wasn't that. I was still freelance, so anyone coming on was willing to be freelance. But a lot of them were in my same position. Some of them were right out of college, just looking to feel themselves out, see what they could do, start up some writing, maybe try some photography or videography. So building up an independent, freelance, organic media platform meant finding people who were willing to do the work and to do work that they actually wanted to do. Now, all of these guys were obviously, everyone is obviously a basketball fan. They have their favorite teams, favorite players. Some guys had certain skill sets. So we kind of just opened it up to people. Like we brought on a couple guys who lived in Pennsylvania. They told a couple of their friends, like, hey, there's this media platform. We're doing basketball stuff. If you want to do some writing or start a podcast or whatever. So we kind of just opened it up as an open freelance platform for people to come in and kind of get themselves started with social media, with writing articles, with photography, with just building up kind of their content portfolios while also obviously helping to build up the platform itself. So again, it's a challenge. It's a challenge finding the right people in any industry, for any rate or any salary, whether it's freelance or paid. Just finding the right people that are really connected to this work, that want to stay in it for the longevity, and not just a quick, let's come up and go viral and all of us get, that's all. That sounds great. But a lot of work has to be put in, and it is a longevity game. So it's been a lot of adjusting, a lot of pivoting. The pandemic, COVID shifted everything, as it did for everybody and everything, and it shifted a lot for me and my platform. A lot of things changed during that time for me. But that's what it was. I was on social media looking for people, asking around, kind of recruiting people, looking for people who wanted to basically just have a platform to kind of showcase whatever skill sets they were interested in showcasing towards their media career.
And so right now, like, you are the face of basketball society. Now, is that very intentional for you, or is that natural? Is that part of your formula for your platform?
No, that was part of the pivot during COVID. I had to drop a bunch of people, just for different reasons. And I got to the point where you can't force people to do things. And I was never trying to, but it got to a point where it felt like that's where it was going. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had to make decisions at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this platform and this work, this game, this sport is part of my purpose. It's connecting me to things that I'm supposed to do in this life. So I used to tell guys, like, I don't really have a choice. Like, I am going to
Mhm.
make this work, whatever that looks like,
Mhm.
with or without you. I had to get to a point where I just stated to them, like, listen, right now, a lot of what is happening and what we have is a result of my work, my connections, my relationships, my thought processes, my ideas. And it got to, it just gets to a point where you have to, kind of move on from people. So it wasn't strategic for me to be the face or be the only kind of person really managing the platform. That was a result of circumstance. And again, the pandemic, it just shifted a lot for people. I could sense it in people with I mean, you got to remember during the pandemic, the NBA was shut down. There were no games. So you had to get extra creative media platforms and content platforms, especially in sports,
Mhm.
had to get really creative. A lot of people were rerunning old content, playing old highlights from old games years ago and stuff because there were no live games
Right.
to do live coverage of. So I
Mhm.
had to explain to guys like, listen, now is the time where everyone's creativity and ability to create something out of nothing is going to be tested right now. So
Mhm.
we had like kind of a 3 week, 4 week trial where I got to sit back and see like, okay, what are we gonna do now? I know what I'm gonna do. I know how I'm shifting and pivoting, and I did some different things, and it was like guys, you can either come along, it's open to you. You can come along, but if it's not, if it doesn't feel natural, if it doesn't, I'm not gonna drag you. I'm not gonna force you. I don't have enough energy for that. I'm not that strong. So it wasn't the plan, but it ended up being what needed to happen at that time.
Yeah, and totally makes sense. Just like any business, you have to pivot given what's happening in the market and in the world. And that makes sense. And I appreciate you pulling back the curtain to show what it looks like behind the scenes. Because again, people see the glamour of influencer marketing, influencer relations, but they don't know the time and the resources that it takes to be able to produce the content and keep it going. And so, knowing everything that you know now, are there certain things you do differently, or things that worked really well that you'll share with our listeners or viewers?
I think that even going back to what you've mentioned kind of throughout about establishing yourself as somewhat of an authority, that's a word and a term that a lot of people use in the content creation space because a lot of people are fighting for attention and time and real estate on social media. They want, obviously, if you're doing content about anything, you want people to listen to you. They want people to listen to your takes and to engage with your stuff. um I definitely can't stress enough the idea that you really need to be connected to what it is, because even as you said, you can't fake it and you can't manufacture passion out of nowhere. I would say one thing that really worked for us as we grew was just watching games. Basketball is an active sport. NBA games are on almost every night. Basketball has become kind of this year-round entity. There really is no off season. That was part of kind of the goal for Basketball Society, is to be a well-rounded, wholesome basketball platform. We don't just cover NBA. You got women's basketball, you got youth basketball, you got Special Olympics basketball. I mean, basketball is everywhere to be covered and highlighted and celebrated. So when we really grew, we were really covering NBA games almost every night, posting highlights, posting clips. Where we really saw our growth between around 2016 to 2019, when we really got up to around 50. We went from around 10,000 followers on Instagram to about 50,000 between 2016 to 2019. And most of that was from watching games live and putting up stuff quickly. And that holds a lot of people back because they feel like if they don't react to something quickly, it's not going to do well. And that's understandable. But so you have to be strategic and you have to be mindful about things. But anytime you have a chance, and this is related to the authority piece, anytime you have a chance to share something, especially react to something or give your commentary on something that is a hot topic that is out there, but especially if it fires you up. Like, don't just talk about it just because you had a little thought, you talking to your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or something, and you thought you had a little thought on this, but it has to really fire you up. It has to hit you in your core where you just, I tell this to people who kind of work with the platform now. It's like you got to be itching to get that
Mm,
thought out about why the 76ers aren't going to be good without Joel Embiid since he's hurt. You got to be fired up to talk about why you think LeBron James is the greatest of all time. Don't just
mm,
give me the information, give me fire and passion so I understand that you really believe in this. So
mhm.
it is about consistency. It is about um not holding back and kind of just, you got to be willing to kind of mess up and put stuff out quickly right away, test things and see what people like, see what attracts people. We saw that posting highlights, especially if it was a highlight that just happened in a game like an hour ago that same night. If we posted a clip that night, and this was like 5, 6 years ago. So
Mhm,
nowadays, this isn't like a foolproof system for anyone to do.
mhm,
But then when Instagram and highlights were really starting to boom, we were right on it. So we would wake up in the morning and see our post last night had over 50,000 views, 100,000 views on Instagram because it was so quick. It was recent, it was current, and we learned over time, people are going waking up in the morning, they want to recap the last night's games, they want it. So you do have to become a little mindful and obsessive with, to some degree, of consumer behavior. Just like in
sure.
business, you have to think about your audience, you have to notice and watch what they're liking, what they're watching, and what they enjoy. So those are just some of the things that over time, as we grew, I definitely learned and said, like, okay, these are some of the things that I kind of know that same kind of formula of, okay, this is the method of attack, this is like kind of the plan of attack that I'm used to, and it really is like an attack kind of mentality.
I think there are a few things that would be helpful for folks. One, just the bottom line: if this content doesn't rev you up, then don't put it out there, right? Two, being nimble. So I think a lot of people may get caught up in delivering the most perfect looking video shot and it hurts them, right? And
Yeah.
so where is the balance between, you want to produce something that, you don't want to just do anything that's really shoddy, but at the same time you want to um just be able to get content out there so people can consume it. So what's your advice about the level of productivity, and production work and that type of thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's definitely something that I know holds a lot of people back. I get questions almost every week about what camera do you use, what microphone is that, whatever. And the equipment is important, and I always advise people to do what I did, which is use YouTube. I self-taught myself everything about equipment and the cameras and lighting and everything just from YouTube, and also from testing, right? So, I know people who will get the equipment and then it sits in the living room for a while because they don't want to touch it, they don't want to try it out. And it's understandable. This stuff can be intimidating. I would say stick to the basics. If you can get one basic light, lighting is important. Audio is important. You can get good quality microphones for cheap. It doesn't have to be some fancy XLR studio microphone. It can be a USB mic or something that hooks up to your iPhone. By the way, the iPhone that almost all of us have shoots in high quality. People are shooting music videos on the iPhone nowadays. So I constantly am reminding people and consulting people to remember to use your iPhone for content because it shoots better quality than what you may think. But the main thing, Nicole, for me, and that I often have to share with content creators on this stuff, it does go back to what we talked about and what I said before. If I would rather, and this is happens, if you pay attention to like big time podcasters, guys who are on TV, sportscasters, and people in other industries, I'm sure you will see a video on YouTube, and this can be discouraging sometimes. You will see a video out there, grainy, shoddy. bad quality, but it's got over 200,000 views because the person on the video is Joe Rogan or someone from the Fox Sports 1 or someone with a huge following already. So
Mhm.
those people are going to go watch that video regardless. They're watching that video regardless. Why? Because they want to hear what that person has to say. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Now, quality does matter. Quality will always matter for sure. But guess what? I would rather a shoddy video of someone giving me 10 minutes of information that I can take away than a quality, beautiful, crispy, well shot video with great audio that's just bland and you're
Empty.
you're just saying words and empty. And I'm not coming away from it with anything except, man, that was a good looking video. So the content is always going to be over, they say quality over quantity or whatever the case. Like, I would say the quality of the content supersedes the quality of the production, honestly. And the more passionate you get about the content, the less intimidated and the more adamant you'll feel about, okay, let me upgrade my look and my equipment now because this content is too good to be looking like this, right? So
Yeah.
just start with make sure the content is good first and then it's passionate first.
Mhm.
People will want to hear that no matter what it looks like.
Right, right. Excellent, excellent. And then I just want to delve a little deeper when you talked about the analytics part of it, right? That informed the type of content. So, what are some of the things that you look at in terms of analytics to help you determine what you're creating and what's next?
Yeah, it's definitely I mean, tracking views obviously is big, and also shares.
Mhm.
It's definitely something like I still work on, that everybody kind of works on in social media content creation. Like, you see something that gets high views or high engagement, you should want to know why. There's a natural curiosity. You look at it and it's like, wow, that thing's going up. The first question that should and usually does pop in your head is like, well, why? Like, what's going on here? And if you look at how the nature of the comments, if you look at again, if it has high shares, that tells you something. But look, that is giving you immediate feedback as to, well, what is it about this that made people share this more than others? I definitely think the shares are the biggest thing to notice. And nowadays, I talk about this a lot with people, but you notice people love sharing funny stuff, right? If you see something that's funny, you got about 5 friends who you send funny stuff to in your group chats or right on Instagram, church related stuff, black related stuff, business related stuff, whatever it is, funny stuff, entertaining stuff. We share that. We naturally want to share that because it's entertaining, we relate to it, and then we know about 3 to 5 people who are going to relate to this,
Right.
right? So tracking those shares is really important. Really, really looking at that is definitely a big thing, I would say.
That's awesome. Yes, definitely. And I suppose for you, what's next for Basketball Society?
So this year we're definitely expanding. If you take a look at the YouTube and our social media a little bit, you will start to see some more faces. I'm kind of reopening the platform to some other people. I've been recruiting again, looking for specific type of creators and contributors that can add some more faces and voices to the platform. The idea is to take it to a more societal construct where it kind of bringing it back to the beginning where we brought people in, freelancers and stuff, but now I think the landscape is different with content creation and with people looking to use their voices. So I am looking to build up somewhat of a team that kind of represents Basketball Society in different spaces. We used to do events. We did tons of events over the years, back to school all-star games and community events and things of that nature. So we are starting to kind of get back into that. We're opening up we have some clinics and camps and stuff this summer that people are interested in collaborating with us on. So expansion is definitely the word of this year, and just continuing to represent what basketball means to society in all kinds of forms. And so we're definitely expanding from a personnel standpoint to get some more people internally that love the game, that know the game, and that want to grow the game in the way that it deserves to.
Okay, so how should people contact you if they want to be a part of that? If they want to be a contributor or go to the events, what should they do?
Yeah, definitely find me on Instagram at martin.soaries. You can send me a DM. DMs are always wide open. And you can find Basketball Society on Instagram at basketball society underscore, and contact information, email, everything like that is you can all find there. So that's where you could reach out to me if you're a basketball person who, or even if you're just a basketball fan and you're looking for some genuine basketball content out here, definitely feel free to stop by. But yeah, anyone who's looking to kind of get into that space, we're definitely here for you.
And a final thought for you, are you interested in any formal connections with corporations and other brands in the category?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, absolutely. We are committed to, again, using basketball as a vessel, as a vehicle to contribute to the betterment of society with our young people, even with our older people. We feel that basketball has a huge impact and influence on society. So we are looking to collaborate and partner with corporations who have those goals in mind, and using basketball as it was intended to be from the very beginning when James Naismith created the game back in 1891, to create this ecosystem of collaboration and community where we can move society forward using this great game of basketball. It's not just about all-star games and community events and stuff like that, but basketball brings people together and it changes lives. So the idea is to use the platform in that way, to partner with corporations who are serious about doing that work and doing things in the community where basketball can be that strong connector to bring people out, bring people together, and make things a little bit better out here. So I believe, and we believe, that basketball truly has that unique power.
Well, that was awesome. And you gave us a little bit of history there. So thank you for that. So I appreciate the time you've given us. I think this was extremely informative. And so thank you. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yes. So there you have it, folks. Another episode of Ask the Expert. Join us next week, same time, same place.